Good evening and สวัสดีครับ Welcome to Thai PBS World. I'm Thep Chayong.
I'm Thanathorn Juangroongruangkit. We bring Thailand to the world and bring the world to Thailand, and we bring you report and analysis about Thailand every week.
For a few weeks there was this big fuss about whether or not Thailand should open the door to foreign observers to monitor the upcoming elections. That the issue came up at all was a surprise for many people because it was a practice for Thailand to invite observers from overseas to monitor previous elections. So this time around, many people believe that it's just another election, so why such a fuss about whether or not we should invite foreign observers or not?
Yeah, but it has become an issue, become controversial, especially by the comment of Foreign Minister regarding whether we should invite international observers in this election.
That's right. And the issue came up amidst concerns about how fair and free the election will be, given the influence of the National Council for Peace and Order over the country and the fact that the NCPO practically will be represented by a party in the election. So big question mark as to how fair and how free the election will be.
Yes.
So people believe that having foreign observers here could be a measure of sort of a guarantee that things will be under close watch, by, at least by foreign observers anyway.
Perhaps it depends on whom you are talking with in terms of their comment regarding international observer. But heated debate has come up because of the comment by Foreign Minister Kundon Paramat Vinay regarding his comment that draw heated debate in the past few days.
That's right. So it was a surprise that it was Kundon Paramat Vinay, the Foreign Minister, who was most vehement against having foreign observers here. Look at what he said. I mean, Kunnatha.
Yes. He said allowing foreign observers means we have problems. It means we can't take care of ourselves, and that's a bad reflection on the country.
No, but later on, early this week, he tried to clarify his remarks, saying that he wasn't against foreign observers outright as reported in the media. He said he was simply suggesting that if there were to be foreign observers, they should be limited to diplomats already stationed in Thailand.
Yes.
That means that he would not agree with having observers from overseas. But if diplomats inside the country already here, if they want to observe the election, Kundon says welcome.
Yes. But today there is more comment from Election Commission from the President of Election Commission, Kun Ittiporn Bunnprachong, said EC would be welcome international observer if they ask for permission to come and observe election in Thailand.
So the matter seems to have been settled, at least for now. He mentions Kun Ittiporn, the EC chairman, mentioned unveils, the Asian networks for free elections, specifically, that this one of the organizations that would be most welcome to monitor the elections.
Yes, and to hear what the procedure by unveils so far in order to observe elections in many countries, we have invited Kun Somsee Han Anantasuk, former executive director of Asian Network for Free Elections, to join us on the phone. Kun Somsee สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ
ค่ะ You're now joining me and Kun Thep Chayong. Kun Somsee, what's your reaction on Kundon and Election Commission so far in terms of international observer? What's your take?
I think Kundon is too sensitive about about the foreigners to come to observe the election, right? But this morning, I heard that the Election Commission seemed to give the green right to international observer, but I don't think they will give the letter for invitation. They never do that. Yeah. So if observer, for example, the Asian Network for Free Election or unveils come, they will just come and to observe from outside the polling station. Maybe they cannot enter the polling station like the country because they may not get the accreditation card. That is a key point for unveils. In the past, we used to have the ECC issue accreditation card to all observers of unveils. Yeah, but for EU is different, no? EU they need to have invitation from the government or from at least from the election commission, the ECC, invite them to come. That is the rule of the EU. Otherwise, they will not come.
I see. Kun Somsi, how important you think it is for the elections to be observed by foreign observers?
How what? Sorry.
How important it is? I mean, for the election.
Important. For me, I think if you look at all stakeholder on election stakeholder, you will see that all are not impartial, right? But for international observer, they are more partial, more impartial. Sorry. Yeah. So they are more neutral than other groups. So it will be good for us if we don't have any problem. Why not we invite them to come to observe? And not only observe, they also study, learn something good from us. You know, in the past we learned a lot about polling station and the poll state system, and also the vote no on the ballot paper.
I see.
Other countries they don't have, only Thailand.
I see. You just mentioned that if UNveils, send a team here, the job is to monitor the polling from outside the polling booths, right? And of course, you'll be talking to a lot of people. But are this enough? For you to come up in an assessment whether or not the election is free or fair?
Normally we have to send the document and the deal to our observer in advance before they arrive Bangkok, and we will have a briefing. Of course, we need them to read the constitution and the election law in English. That normally we did that, and we have briefing. We also have debriefing at the end of the mission. Sometimes we have long-term observer. Sometimes we have only short-term observer to come to Thailand for only 10 days. Of course, it might not enough in terms of in-depth situation, but we can at least access from physical and also the law or the process, and the way we allocate the seat this time is quite different from other times. I think the mixed member apportionment system that we learned from the German system, they also calculate the seats more or less like this time of Thailand. So
yes. But the argument by Foreign Minister Don Paramat Vinay, he argues that Thai situation in Thailand is quite independent, and we have held election for many times already, and to have foreign diplomat as international observer is enough. Do you buy this argument?
I think he is Minister of Foreign Affairs. I'm surprised to hear that he says
it should be more welcoming, right?
Yeah. He should be open mind and welcome the observer. Sometimes the election commission also invite other country election commission to come, or the diplomat to come to observe. Why not, right? And I think we also, the Thai people, they also go to other countries. They went to other countries to observe. But how come they don't welcome them to come to our country to observe the election? Is too sensitive or not? We also ask this question that Mr. Dong.
And normally, what do international observers try to take a look during election? What do they observe?
Normally, we observe the starting from observation, the campaign, the process of campaigning. We interview the politician and all main stakeholders like first-time voter or the elderly, or we also interview the media, something like this, and we want to know the overall picture, overall situation, whether the freedom of expression here is okay, or freedom of assembly, and also this time maybe it will be a bit more on the free and fair election and the independence of the election commission and the official government official, something like this. And on the election day, we will be busy for the whole day, starting from the opening the polling station from 8 o'clock, and this time it will be 10 hours of polling process, right? It will be more than last time. And then we went to like a mobile, to one station to another like that, because we don't have enough people to be in each station. So also when the polling closing, we need to observe the closing process and the counting. And then of course for the post-election time, we also observe the way they calculate the seat for the party list. Of course, the constituency list we will know in the evening of the 24th February, right? We will know the result. But for the party list, it will be a little bit later. So at least we know roughly that who will be the winner or who will gain the majority, and who will be a coalition of the main party, something like that, or to form the government. But of course, after that, when they might have some constituency that need to be re-election if the candidate got black ticket or red ticket. This time we have 4 tickets. We have yellow and we have orange. We have red and black ticket. And if the election commission issue the red ticket or the black ticket, that means they have to have re-election.
Lengthy. It will be a lengthy process then.
Something like that.
All right.
Okay.
But however, we have office here, so the staff will continue observe the post-election process. Something like that.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kun Somsi, for all your comments regarding international observers.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. So early this week, the Future Forward Party of Kun Thanathorn Juangroongruangkit made quite a splash with the announcement of a series of policies that he promised will change the face of Thailand. And one of the most controversial policies put forward by the party is the reforming of the military.
Yes.
And that is very controversial because it seems that the Future Forward Party is the only party in town right now that is proposing the policy that has to do with the armed forces.
Yes, very clear and very outspoken, very obvious policy from Future Forward Party. And shall we take a look of the key policy that Forward Party proposed? 12 new issues, but majority is about military reform. The first one is to reforming the armed forces to end military intervention.
The party claims that by reforming the armed forces, by downsizing them, it would lead to a new beginning.
Yes.
That would put an end to military intervention in politics.
Yes. Let's see the next page of downsizing the size of armed forces, like what Kun Thepchai have just mentioned. It means to reduce the number from more than 300,000 personnel to 170,000 personnel.
That's almost half of the numbers that we have now.
And it is very
Are we having too many generals? Yes, in the eyes of Kun Thanathorn, yes, we have too many generals in the armed forces.
Yes, that's the number remarkably down from 1,600 to 400 of the generals in military in Thailand. And also reducing the military budget in proportion to GDP down to 1.1% or 65 billion baht per year.
Now, if the Future Forward Party has its ways, it means that the budget for the military will be cut down by more than half. If you look at the budgets allotted to the armed forces over the past 4 or 5 years under the National Council for Peace and Order,
then
you
let's
can
take a
see
look at the graphic.
continuous rises of the budget.
Yeah, let's take a look at the graphic of 2015 to 2019 of the budget of Ministry of Defense.
It's a remarkable increase. I mean, from 192,000 to 227,000 million baht. I mean, that's quite a lot. So what the Future Forward Party is proposing is to almost half the budget for the military.
Yes. And that means it has to be opened up for closer scrutiny by media and members of the public in terms of budget of the purchase of arms.
I think this is one point that the party wants to emphasize is what it suspects to be irregularities in the purchases of arms. And so party is proposing that in the future, all the military arms purchases should be open to public scrutiny to make the process more transparent so that there won't be any corruption involved.
So that's very clear proposed policy by Future Forward Party. And to hear more details of this proposed policy, now let's listen to Kun Thanathorn Juangroongruangkit, leader of Future Forward Party. Kun Thanathorn, are you with us? Okay, our team is trying to contact Kun Thanathorn Juangroongruangkit, the leader of Future Forward Party. This is very clear and in specific detail about military reform proposed by Future Forward Party.
As I mentioned, that Future Forward Party is the only party now that is proposing policy that has to do with the armed forces. Now, Kun Thanathorn is on the phone with us. Kun Thanathorn, good evening. สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับคุณเทพชัยครับ
Thank you for joining us. So can you tell us again in detail as to what the Future Forward Party is hoping to achieve through your new policy toward the armed forces?
Let me share with you this first problem. I think we have this is how we see the problem. We would like to end the military intervention in the Thai politics. We want to demilitarize the military.
Yes.
So our military reform policy is decided to achieve that objective. We believe that if we could do what we propose to the public about the reformation of the military, we can stop the military intervention and modernize the Thai army.
I see. But what is the connection between downsizing the armed forces and ending the military intervention? Because if you're talking about military intervention in the past, they did not need many people to stage a coup, right? What you're proposing is to cut the number of the soldiers in the armed forces almost by half. But do you think that would help, stop the future military interventions?
That's right. The military forces in Thailand is now standing at 330,000 personnel.
Yeah.
And our plan is to cut them down to 170,000 personnel. We believe that this will make our military lean and combat ready.
But Kun Thanathorn, don't you see security threat looming large in Thailand, especially in terms of Southeast Asia security, and we may need military personnel to protect security of Thailand?
There is no existential external security threat to Thailand at the moment. The Thai military has never been at war for decades. So we don't see any external threat. However, having said that, I have to say that security of the nation is very important. The way we see this is that no forces could seize a city anymore. We would like to see our army, our military modernized. Could use modern technology such as GPS, such as satellites, to wage war if there is ever one.
I see.
Rather than using the old method of using military personnel conquer a city. That outdated, that mode of war is no longer compatible with the 21st century.
I see. Kun Thanathorn, modernizing the military also requires a lot of budget. Do you take that into account?
That's right. Our proposal, we plan to build this modern technology in Thailand. We want to put more money into research and development. We want to reduce our dependence on buying, importing the military equipment from international markets and start building this industry in Thailand.
But is reforming the military a top priority for your party if it ever comes to power? Is it a top priority or not?
It is. Our policies are based on 3 base policies, 8 pillar policies, and 1 flagship policy. 3 base policies are decentralization, education reformation, and building a welfare state. And 8 pillar policies, military reformation is one of the 8 pillars.
Kun Thanathorn, are you aware that 20-year national strategy outlined by NCPO has also included some forms of reforming of military as well?
We are fully aware of that. Having said that, please continue, Kun Natha.
Because they have mentioned this issue as well. Do you agree with the outline by NCPO?
I believe that the 20-year national plan is not a plan per se. It is a political tool to control elected government. It is a political tool to dissolve political parties that NCPO believes they cannot control. So in our view, the 20-year strategy is not a strategy at all.
And in order to have come to the conclusion of the proposed policy by Future Forward Party, have you studied the form of military reform in other countries in Southeast Asia as well, like Malaysia, Indonesia?
That's right. Thailand used to be a beacon of democracy and human rights in this region of the world before. And if you look at Indonesia or if you look at the Philippines, they've been under the same situation in the past, and that being under the dictatorship. We have progressed our society further and faster than Indonesia and the Philippines in the past, and now we have gone 20 years, even 40 years backwards. So we believe that the military wields too much power in this country, and that reform is long overdue. When we do our policy study, we compare this with international standards. For example, the number of generals we talk about, we have about 1,600 generals in Thailand, and our proposal, we propose to reduce the number of generals from 1,600 to 400. 400, that's 400 from. That 400 is, will put us in the same range as Germany or Israel.
Kun Thanathorn, you are
we have more generals than the U.S.
Yeah. Kun Thanathorn, the plan to reform the military is being seen as a direct challenge to the armed forces. Do you foresee any resistance from them if you really want to go ahead with this reform plan?
I think this policy reflects the characteristic of our party, and that being unsubmissive. We want to confront the problem at the root cause. If we cannot solve this problem, Thailand could never cannot see the light of day. So I think military reformation reflects what we think about our society, reflects the characteristic, unsubmissive characteristic of our party. It's the only way out. You cannot deny this, you cannot avoid it, it's inevitable.
That means you'll be in direct confrontation with the country's most powerful force.
Yes, and we are...
You ready for that?
How do you say? We are ready for that.
All right.
Yes. And how about the internal situation inside Future Forward Party? Because we have heard of many controversial split up inside the party just recently.
Let me put it this way: for a new political party, 6 months old political party that's been growing this fast, this big, you couldn't avoid problems. Problems are expected, and we believe that they are lessons for us to move ahead. I do not think that if you look at the big picture, I mean, many people look at these individual problems separately, independently. What I say is this: I believe that if you take one step back and look at the big picture, are we progressing? I say yes.
Yeah.
We announced our policies that ready to change this country, and I believe our policies are deeper, go further, and more thoroughly thought than other in the market, in the political market at the moment.
Nice.
We will be sending MP candidates in all 350 constituencies. All of them are new faces. We have set up our provincial offices in 77 provinces already. I repeat, 77 provinces. So if you look at the time span of 6 months, we are talking about recruiting MP candidates. 3 persons in one day over the last 100 days, right? If you look at the way we set up our provincial offices, we over the past 6 months, 3 days, every 3 days, we set up one provincial officer.
Wow.
If you look at these achievements, I believe that it is extraordinary. I believe that you don't see this in any other political parties that was born before us before.
All right. All right. Khun Thanathorn, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And wish you all the best. Okay.
Thank you very much, and have a good night.
All right. So we have heard from Khun Thanathorn Juangroongruangkit, leader of the Future Forward Party, emphasizing the policy of the party to downsize the armed forces. Now we listen to the other side of the spectrum.
Yes. And let's hear from Associate Professor Panitan Watanayakorn, his advisor to Deputy Prime Minister on Security Affairs. อาจารย์ปณิธาน thank you for joining us สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับคุณณัฐฐาคุณเทพชัยครับ
ค่ะอาจารย์ปณิธาน you must have heard of the outlined proposed policy by Future Forward Party according to the military reform. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think reforms in general are very much accepted in developing countries as one of the ways to increase the capability, increase the transparency, and of course to improve the performance or good governance of the system. So in general, public reform is a positive thing in general. But of course, Kun Thepachai, Kun Natha, we are fully aware that this is not new. The different reforms have been attempted in the country. So we need to be clear. Number one, what we are talking about. Are we talking about a military reform, or are we talking about political reform, or are we talking both about the public reform or public sector reform? So these are the different things altogether. Number one, it has to be clear. Yes.
So for you, which one is more urgent? Political reform, military reform, public reform?
Well, in the campaign mode, most parties I observe, they are very much highlighting their policies on political reform. In this case, it's not particularly about the capability, of the military to meet the challenges in the future in particular. Although there are some of those proposed reforms about new technology being used, the small but efficiency, which has been attempted many years ago, but not quite successful in the past. So there are some elements of the military reform, but the military reform in the new generation is so different. As Kun Thepachai highlighted, it's very expensive. If we are talking about new technology to meet the new challenges, for example, about cyber warfare, for example, about new high technology in space, for example. But if we are talking about the military role in Thai politics, it's all different.
That's another matter.
Yes.
Kun Panitan, I mean, in the context of the proposal by the Future Forward Party to downsize the armed forces, so the impression is that the armed forces we have now are too big. We have as many as 330,000 soldiers, and Future Forward Party want to halve the number by half. So, do you think that we are too big?
Well, I think there have been studies about how many soldiers is enough or suitable for Thailand for many years. There are different studies, but all indicated that yes, we could initiate a smaller the reduction of forces. For example, during Chuan administration, during the economic crisis of 1997, 80,000 forces has been cut, from the forces. But the trouble after that is that the requirements of other duties, like the civil military activities in terms of disaster relief, in terms of different border activities, including anti-terrorism, require the military to perhaps maintain certain numbers of soldiers. So it has to, it has to be decided before the number has been cut on how much challenges and what kind of civilian responsibility that can take over the military. But in general, the military is aiming to reduce their forces for a number of years. They are not quite successful yet. They are now attempting to do it through a new national strategy.
I see. You see, one of the proposals from the party, the Future Forward Party, that I believe that is striking a right chord with the young people, is to end the military conscription to be replaced with by voluntary enlistment. Do you think it's about time that we abolish compulsory conscription?
Interestingly, within the military itself, there are different proposals to end that conscription many years ago. They also look into that quite closely as they discover that more and more effectiveness can be from the volunteer or a new kind of systems. And that is one of the decisions that maybe the new government has to make. And of course, you notice that in certain years, in certain districts, numbers of volunteers are now exceeding number of conscription.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. In many areas, there were many volunteers that beyond, more than the number of the personnel required.
Yes. So it depends on the future, structure of the military decided by government. But realizing that, Kun Thepachai, Kun Natha, Thailand is one of the countries that have long borders. Myanmar Thailand borders is more than 1,500 kilometers already. So that's a long border that requires intensive manpower. Unless you want to switch into a new satellite system, which is much more expensive.
I see. So you're saying that the ending the conscription is one of the items on the agenda of the armed forces. It depends on when, right?
Yes, for a long time they have proposed that, but of course Thailand is in transition. In certain areas, you see that they are already moving into the new era. But in certain areas in the provinces, young men from families that may not have a good income, they still do want to send their children to be educated in the military, to be trained, and of course to get benefits once they serve 2 or 3 years in the military, and then they come out, and have a better chance of being hired as they are more disciplined compared to those who are not served in the military. This is typical, Kun Natha, Kun Thepchayong, in many countries, women served in the military for the short period are sought out to be very effective in terms of discipline, in terms of workforces. But of course, civilians can do the same by increase their disciplinary training. So it depends on the future government on what to do with our young generation. Conscription is one old traditional way, but there are different ways. It's come down to who can do it cheaper, the military or the civilian.
And to what extent do you see 20-year national strategy plan is in line with military reform?
I think for the first time, Kun Natha, the military is now asked to do the planning of the nation together with all ministries for the first time systematically. Of course, in the past, different ministries have their own master plans. No longer the case. Every ministry must sit down and decide the 6 main important issues: security, environment, competitiveness, the foreign policy, and bureaucracy together. So the military, for the first time, we have to calculate the capability, to defend the country together with different ministries and with the civilian and private sector. I think that is a big opportunity, maybe perhaps to reduce the cost of the military and then to increase the effectiveness without expanding the forces. I think that is a big opportunity waiting for the new government to implement that.
I see. Kun Panitan, you are an expert in military affairs. If you can have your own proposal to reform the military to make it more lean and mean, what would that be?
Well, we have proposed several times and in many studies to the military throughout my career, throughout academics career of many professors here. I think the first is, of course, what to do with the cost of the labor, cost of the salary compensation, which is now exceeding 65%, of the total budget. I think that's an immediate concern. How to reduce that cost and use it to invest in terms of new technology. Cutting down the forces alone will not do it, Kun Thepachai. And in certain cases, we find out that the labor cost in Thailand is still cheaper than hiring automation. So you need to calculate that carefully. So the first area is, of course, to really look into the burden of the budget beyond the capital cost, and that's one. Second, of course, what is the right and most appropriate budget? And in different countries, they have different ways to calculate that. But in the end, for example, many countries in ASEAN spend far more than Thailand. For example, Singapore Malaysia, smaller, same challenges, but they spend a lot more on the military budget. So that means that our budget is not big compared to other countries, considering our challenges. But how to make it efficiency? That's the I think final answer. How to make it more efficient? And once you do that, now if you can do that efficiently, and then you can begin to think about access, numbers of people, access number of a budget that you don't need in the future.
In terms of figure, it's quite interesting, Ajahn Panitan, because Future Forward Party proposed to cut down the number of generals from 1,700 to only 600 of generals in military. Do you think this figure is probable, is reasonable?
Are we too top heavy at the moment?
Yes, and we used to have a cap on that during the economic crisis of 1997. At that time, if I remember correctly, the master plan under Chuan administration is 1,000. But after that, the chain of government, they changed that cap. But in the end, of course, it's about the advancement in terms of the career also. As you know, generals doesn't indicate the duties or challenges alone. It's a position they held. Some generals do not hold active positions, and that can be cut. But if you cut down certain active positions, that could have some consequences. But in the end, the whole restructuring of that forces must be done. You cannot aim to cut down only general or colonel or captain. You need to look at the whole and begin to have a new plan. This is why a master plan, a national strategy is needed to calculate the needs of the total of the nation, not only the military alone.
Kun Panitan, cutting down the number of army personnel and reducing the number of generals, in the long run, you think it can put an end to military intervention in politics? Because that seems to be the reasoning by the Future Forward Party, that cutting down on the number of army personnel could help end military intervention.
Well, in many countries that have more interventions of the military than Thailand, we saw them having very small forces in the Philippines, in different countries in Africa, in Caribbean, they have far more. They have far less numbers of soldiers. Still, they still have more coups than Thailand. So I think cutting down alone may not achieve the purpose. I think it has to be done with political reform and with many other complex factors.
Yeah, because staging a coup, you don't need the whole armed forces to be involved, right?
Yes, I think you are correct by pointing out that in the beginning of the program that that may not be enough to change the role of military in politics. If that is the aim, then they have to do more. They have to do the total reform of the society and of politics in particular.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Panitan Watanayakorn, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So that's very clear. I mean, we heard from both sides of the argument.
Yes.
On one side, we have the Future Forward Party, Thanathorn, the party leader, emphasize the need for the armed forces to be reformed, putting emphasis on the reduction of the number of military personnel, the number of generals, and then the arms purchase process to be made more accountable, more transparent.
Yes.
And then from the side of the government, Dr. Panitan was speaking in his capacity as the advisor to Deputy Prime Minister, General Pravit Wongsuwan, who looks after national security. Of course, he agrees with the idea of reforming the armed forces. He thinks there's a need to do that. But of course, there are steps that need to be taken. And there are a lot of factors besides reducing the number of the size of the armed forces. there are also other factors that need to be taken into account.
Yes, I would be interested to hear more of proposed policy by other political parties in terms of military reform. I'm sure after Future Forward Party, having said this, other parties may have to think of their proposed policy. And last night we see
there was the biggest political party in town of the year.
Yes, it's the fundraising night gala dinner by Palang Pracharat Party. So last night we saw many major politicians joining the party last night.
It was supposed to be the biggest gala dinner ever organized by political parties in recent years. The aim was to raise money for the party to go into the election in February.
These are the 4 incumbent ministers.
Yeah, what is interesting is that you see, Kunatha point out these 4 people that we see on the screen. They are incumbent cabinet members.
Yes.
They were there, but they were not there either in a way, because they were there, but they were not able to go on the stage.
Yes,
because they have been advised not to make themselves too conspicuous.
Yeah, even though they announced that they will be joining Palang Pracharat Party, but they haven't resigned formally yet from the incumbent cabinet ministers in the current in the current government.
So what happened last night was that the 4 cabinet members did not take the stage.
No,
because they were still in a very they have been under a very watchful eye.
Yes.
Whatever they do, would be scrutinized. So they try not to take the risk.
No.
So they didn't take to stage, and they were there and just to have their presence felt.
No, at this point they cannot be too active in the public in terms of their political role with Palang Pracharat Party. But the gala dinner last night was very successful.
As far as raising the money is concerned, because they were able, at least it was according to figures on the books anyway, there is about 650 million baht. Probably that's the biggest sum of money raised in such an event.
That's beyond their target. So that's obviously, it means Palang Pracharat has got a large amount of fund to run their political activity before election. And they have got so much donation from big corporations in Thailand, so that we would see political landscape before election, which is upcoming on 24th of February next year. So please stay tuned with us on Thai PBS World.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's it for this week. We will come back and see you again next Thursday night.
Yes, we will bring you update and analysis on upcoming election. That's all we have time for this week. I'll see you again next Thursday.
Okay, thank you and good night. สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ